In this video, I'd like to share some notes about how we pot up plants with the intention of being able to make divisions or to be able to multiply those plants. We talked extensively about the idea of stool layering and tip layering, mainly with the focus on shrubs and woodier plants. Today, what we're going to focus on is digging up a little patch of marjoram, which Sasha cooks with extensively. It's beautiful, almost citrus flavor. It's like an oregano, but
really different.
But very different. Well, it's oregano family, I believe.
Yeah.
For our zone 5B, marjoram is not reliably hardy over winter. And so we'd like to pot these up with the idea of being able to bring them inside or transplant them into a greenhouse, preserve them, and at the same time we'd like to be able to make many, many more plants. So let's talk about how we're going to approach that. Earlier this season, Sasha put in 3 small starts, and they grew well enough. Here we are in mid to late August, we're moving towards fall, and what I've done is once during the season I brought some sifted compost with some perlite and poured that around the stems, and that helped promote more rooting so that some of these smaller plants have already started to root in. And this works like we've talked about with shrubs, but also with herbaceous plants. And so now if I were to dig this up, you can see that initial root ball that it came from, and a lot of these stems have roots on them. So if we wanted, we could even take divisions right now, but we're not going to be aggressive about that. We want to make sure that we preserve these plants in a good way. So what we'll do is we'll take this one plant and imagine it's like a fish out of water. We bring it right into water ASAP. Really, really important. Anytime you're digging up a plant, shrub, herbaceous, whoever, annuals, think of them like a fish. Their roots like fish, that they need to be in water. You can't dig them out and let them sit for a little while. So what I'll do is go through and lift perhaps one more. Maybe we'll leave the last one in the garden to test to see how it overwinters, or to move it later, just to give us a little backup plan. Now in this case I'm soaking them in compost tea, which is a really nice bonus, but absolutely not necessary. It's just critical that as soon as they come out, their roots are in water. Now let's talk about actually potting these up with an eye towards multiplying these plants while we do so. Here we are in the shade where we've got some potting mix. Now we make our own. We blend a little bit of perlite. Love to find something other than perlite to use, but it really works well for us. In with compost from our chicken operation. So this is some aged compost and a little bit of perlite, very rich. And what we'll do is pot these up in oversized pots. Now you might think to yourself, plants this size you could probably get away with like a 4-inch wide pot or a little quart pot. If we give them more room, we have to water less. There's more room for their roots to expand before they start to spin. And it gives us an opportunity to plant them lower in the pot, and as they grow, to stool them with sawdust and light potting mix, which I'll explain. So, what I'll do is start by putting coarse sticks. Now if you buy your potting mix, you don't have to do this step because you won't get random twigs and old bones and things like that. We love putting coarse woody debris at the bottom of our pots. We've talked about this in other videos, hugelkultur in a pot. We find it gives a really nice fungal, healthy base, and when you give a deep watering, the wood chips can soak up the excess water and hold on to it and release it later to the plants. Now I'll put a little layer of mix. I'm not super concerned about filtering it and sifting out every last flake. Plants can deal with a lot more complexity than we give them credit for. Now here's one of those plants. Now this was just a single potted plant in the spring, and if you look closely you can see, because we've stooled some potting mix up against those stems through the summer, a lot of them have their own roots. In fact, if we really wanted to extract a lot more plant material, this is a little extreme but it would work, is I could trim that cutting off, and this could even go in its own pot. It's a little fragile in this state. We'd have to keep it in the deep shade and water it daily for a little while, but this way we could get 20 marjorams from this one plant right now. I don't want to hurt them, I don't want to push it, so I'll put that one in. And the rest of this what we can simply do is plant it nice and low in the pot. You can probably get a sense of what I'm moving towards here. We're going to continue to promote that stem rooting by bringing that soil level up. Rich, loose, well-drained, porous soil up. To some of you seeing this, it may seem crazy. How can you possibly plant up a stem like that? Imagine your potatoes and your tomatoes, where if you add soil to them, they root into it. A lot of your herbs will do that as well. Now there's a little space in the middle, and what we can do is bring some of those stems over and pin them down with a little soil. Some of these stems over, and pin them down. And these will all rise up and fill out. We'll take this pot, you can see there's a little charcoal sitting on there, crush that up, and I'll soak this in compost tea. Not a necessary step, but nice if you have it. And I might even put a little muck on top. Now that seems coarse and crazy, but we'll let this rest in the shade for a day or so. We'll take it out of here in a few minutes. We'll let this rest, and then we can move it into the sun for the rest of the season. When we get close to freezing, we'll move this indoors, or we'll transplant this into our greenhouse. In the meantime, every one of these stems will have rooted way, way more, and we'll be able to get some very serious divisions from this one plant. What we'll do is bank each of those stems, like we're doing with this rosemary, with some moist sawdust. So here's a single rosemary plant, got this at a plant sale for $5 the other day, and every one of those stems that's coming through the sawdust will root for us. We're rooting for them. And in the fall we'll be able to transplant out and take those divisions, or wait till next spring and get a lot more. Really simple additional layer when you pot up plants to get many more plants from them. Hope this is helpful. Let us know if you already do this, or if you've got some other adjustments that you like to work with.
All right, that's good.